Welcome to Wisdom Unleashed. It's your host, Christian McCray Stewart, and today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Proverbs 31 woman, the blueprint for wisdom and strength. Welcome. How are you all doing, my beautiful people, my beautiful ladies, and to the gentlemen who are going to join in today, to my handsome brothers. Today, we're going to have a thought-provoking conversation, and we're going to utilize the Proverbs 31 woman. The first thing that I want to do is overcome the misconceptions. We have heard about the Proverbs 31 woman time and time again. And there is so much wisdom to glean. There's so much that we can take and apply it to our own lives. However, from experience and previous conversations, I know that there are many misconceptions about what the Proverbs 31 woman truly encompasses. So let's address misconception number one, perfectionism. The Proverbs 31 woman is an ideal. It is not a mandate. None of us are perfect, right? None of us are perfect. And the thing is we're going to grow. We're going to mature. We're going to elevate. I mean, it's kind of like we are caterpillars. Then we go into our cocoon and then we come out as butterflies. All of us have our own unique process. The Proverbs 31 woman, it is a poetic celebration of godly character. It's not a to-do list. So let us not get to the place that we are judging ourselves as though we have to check off all of these things, and then we begin to be so judgmental and critical of our own selves that we miss the points and the opportunities to grow. Second, let's deal with the cultural relevance. When you look at the principles of a Proverbs 31 woman, you're looking, and even to understand, so to my guys who may continue to listen on, or you could be listening with your wife or your daughters, understand too that these are principles that you can take and apply to your lives as well. But some of these principles, think about stewardship, kindness, faith. These things can be adapted to various cultural and modern contexts. Like, this is not just a thing back in the time of which it took place, or back in the time when the Bible was written. No, these are things that we can take and apply them to our lives today. Examples. Think about it in leadership. How you lead others. Are you leading by example? Do others see your hard work? When you're in your business and you're dealing with those you serve, are you serving with kindness? When you show up for your business, are you showing up in faith? And what does that mean? Regardless of what it looks like, I'm going to show up. I'm going to give my best. I am not going to be at a place to think this cannot work out, that this is impossible. Like, you're showing up day in and day out, regardless. These principles apply when you're thinking about caregiving, when you're thinking about different creative pursuits. These is how you apply these traits, these principles of stewardship, kindness, and faith across cultural and modern contexts. We have to be able to glean the wisdom that is within this Proverbs and get guidance into how we apply it to our lives. Okay? But let's break down some of these core characteristics, right? Because when you think about this amazing chapter in the Bible, it starts off, what is it? It's a chapter of a mother's wisdom that is shared with her son, King Lemuel. And it's outlining the qualities of an ideal godly woman. For my brothers, this is a woman that you should be looking for, that you would desire to spend your life with. For my sisters, this is a woman that you desire to encompass these traits, to become her, to have these qualities and these characteristics. These principles are aspirational. They're designed to inspire both men and women to lead lives of wisdom and integrity. And hey, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. That's what we should be desiring to do. That should be our aim. And not just in the personal context, but in every aspect of our lives. Because don't get it wrong, the Proverbs 31 woman, she was an entrepreneur, honey, she had a lot going on. And all this, she was functioning from a place of wisdom and integrity. Okay. And these traits, they transcend time. It's offering us timeless wisdom applicable to our modern life. So let us break it down. Let us start with faithfulness. Okay. When you look at Proverbs 31, verse 30, she is described as a woman who fears the Lord. Her faith is the foundation of all that she does. Her faith is what influences her actions and her decisions. So think about it. I mean, in your business, if you are being upstanding, you're being honorable, regardless of what people can see or what they cannot see, you're not doing it to be appeasing to your competition. You're not doing it to be appeasing to man. You're doing these things because you say, you want to know something? I do all things unto the Lord. Because when it's all said and done, God is the only one who sees all and knows all. Have you gotten to the place that in what you do, you function from a place that, look, my firm foundation is on the one who created all things. So it was her faithfulness to God that inspires her to care for her family and her community, to show up the way that she did. You have to ponder that. How is your faith causing you to show up? Are you showing up as someone who is trustworthy? Or are you showing up as someone who's going to do the right thing, regardless of who can see it? That's a question we have to ask ourselves. Where's the fear of the Lord coming from, especially in our businesses, and our dealings with our family, with our spouses, with our children, with our colleagues, in our communities, the organizations that we are a part of? Has our faith become our foundation on which we stand and which we function? There's a verse in the Bible that tells us, are you building on the rock, or are you building it on sinking sand? That's a decision for each and every one of us to ascertain individually. Next, let's discuss the characteristics of diligence. When you look at verses 13 through 18, it describes her as hardworking. She rises early to provide for her household and engaging in business endeavors. How is she able to do this? And this is a thing that is of importance to all of us. How are we managing our time? How are we managing our time? Because the thing about it is how you manage your time is going to allow you to do things that other people don't do. The saying, it says, you do what others won't do, so that way you can live the way that others can't live. Time management is key, especially as a business owner. Time management. There are so many aspects of your business as an entrepreneur that you have to manage, that time is important. It is important, not only in handling your business, when it comes down to networking, making sure that you're showing up for your family. Because, and let me say this. I was just having a conversation with one of the mothers on our leadership team. And I mentioned that to her, that ministry starts first at home. If you are married, if you have children, your first ministry is at home. Don't neglect your first ministry trying to be out here running about, giving and serving everyone else, and you're not even showing up at home. Okay? But it's the time management. We all have a lot on our plate, and that we have to manage. But guess what? We're all given the same 24 hours. What are you doing with it? And then her diligence in investing. They say you should have multiple streams of income. She was purchasing fields and planting vineyards. It looks different for us. Maybe you're investing your money in stocks. Maybe you have a real estate portfolio. Maybe you're invested in real estate and renting these things out. Maybe you've invested in various businesses. Maybe you are called to open various businesses. But how are you being diligent in those areas? Embracing, nurturing that entrepreneurial spirit. I want to encourage all of us to embrace diligence in our lives. That we're balancing priorities with intentionality. Balancing our priorities with intentionality. And that is one of my words for the year. Intentionality, intentional. I have to be intentional with the goals that I have set. If I'm not intentional, something's going to fall through the crack. If I'm not intentional, what I'm trying to pursue, it could potentially be out of my grasp. I have to be intentional for what I want. And this is a view of what we get from the characteristics of the Proverbs 31 woman. The third characteristic we're going to discuss is wisdom in action. When you're looking at Proverbs 31 verse 21, she is preparing for the future, ensuring her household is well equipped for any season. I say this time and time again. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Now, we're living in the present, right? We're living to glorify God. We're not worrying and being anxious about the future, but we are planning. We're in preparation for what's to come. We're in preparation because we're expecting great things. We're in preparation because we want to ensure that the dream that we're aiming for, that things will line up, right? And so in our preparation, not only are we preparing things that will benefit us personally, that will benefit our family, but we're also looking for what's going to benefit our community. Y'all, and what we're doing, we're talking about entrepreneurship and building wealth and all these other different things. If your mindset is truly that you're just trying to build solely for you and yours, that's the wrong mindset. That's truly not a kingdom mindset. She was making decisions that reflect wisdom and compassion. When you are in those moments and you're in your prayer closet and you're asking God to increase your territory, when you're asking God to bless the work of your hands, when you're asking God to bring you now prosperity, I pray and I hope that it's not, oh Lord, I want all these things just so I can get the big house, just so I can drive the fancy car, just so I can have all the new fashionable clothes. No, you should be desiring for God to increase you, to bring overflow. So that way that overflow is then going to flow into the lives of those who God brings across your path. Come on now. To overflow into the lives of those for the community that God has called you to. Y'all, we're not out here trying to grow and gain wealth simply for ourselves, simply to go out here just to be like, oh, you see what I have? No. We're doing this because we're desiring to further the kingdom. We want to be kingdom financiers. Like, is there a project in your church or organization that you know that is fulfilling the call of God, that you're like, look, I wish that, I have this dream, this vision that one day I'm going to be the one who's going to finance or sponsor that conference. I'm going to be the person who finances or sponsors what's needed for a family. I'm going to be the person that finances or sponsors, somebody's trip out the country, overseas, to go be a blessing to someone, to help them with their ministry. It's more than just us. And I will tell you, if you haven't already, go and study up on some of these businesses that they have made God the owner, that they have placed God in the position of CEO. These businesses that they give above and beyond. They give above the tide. But they're not lacking anything. They haven't missed the beat. They have more than enough. And so in the modern perspective, when we're talking about this wisdom and compassion, this wisdom that we need to apply to managing our finances. Okay? How are you managing your finances? Are you a good steward of everything that God has given to you? Right? And some of us, we live and we learn. We don't know everything, right? Pick up some books, read on finances. That could be an area where you want to improve at this year. I want to read more on finances. I want to read, the books. The Automatic Millionaire. Okay? Robert Kiyosaki. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You have Dave Ramsey. The knowledge is out there, but we have to go and get it. And then not only go and read it, but take those things and apply it. The wisdom, the application is what's going to cause us to rise. Then using the wisdom in your relationship. Hey, when you're out here, you're doing business. People can say what they want to say. You can't do business with any and everyone. Everybody is not for you. Every opportunity is not an opportunity for you. But the thing is to function from the wisdom, to inquire and ask God to direct you on that path. Lord, is this something for me? Is this something that is intended to take me to the next level? Is this something that I need to be connected to? And functioning in wisdom when it comes to career choices. Look. Some of us, if we never inquiring of God of what he desires for us, what he has willed for us, we'll be doing some of any and everything. And not that some of any and everything is necessarily bad, but it's not God's purpose for you. The thing about it is when we function at the pace of grace, when we are aligning ourselves with God's purpose, there's a favor we function in. There's a grace that we have. There's a hedge of protection that is around us. There's a thing that when God gives you the vision, he will make the provision. You want to align yourself with God's purpose for you, even when it comes to your career, because there is just God's favor and protection. There's a supernatural advantage when you're walking with God rather than when you're walking against God or you're trying to do your own thing. And that's not to mean to say that you can't be successful, that you can't accomplish things, but it's not God's best. And I hope that everybody who's listening, that you desire God's best for your life. Next, let's move to number 4, the characteristic of kindness. When you read Proverbs 31 verse 26, her words are described as wise and kind. Wise and kind. I know you all know it. The verse that says, life and death lies in the power of the tongue. Life and death lies in the power of the tongue. She was leading her household and her community with empathy and grace. How is that kindness showing up in your relationships to strengthen connections, to create a harmony? How is it showing up in your home? Are you building up your house or are you tearing it down? When it comes to your husband, the man that you chose to say yes to, are you speaking to the king in him? Or are you speaking words that will tear him down? When you speak to your children, are you speaking life into them? Are you speaking to the version of them that is the perfection of what God created them to become? Or do you focus on their shortcomings? We have to be mindful of that. They described her words as wise and kind. In your daily interactions, how are you speaking? How are you showing up? And the thing is, when it boils down to that, what is truly in your heart? Because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So if all you've been kind of collecting, all you've been consuming is garbage, guess what's going to come out is garbage. But how are we displaying the kindness and understanding the impact that kindness can have? Using wise words, speaking words that edify. You encounter someone and you walk past, like how do you have, for my sisters, okay? I've had an instance where I've come across one of my sisters and she just does not seem to be in the mood. Like it's really no smile. It's one of those, I don't even want to be irritated. But it's, hey, good morning. How you doing? You can see people's countenance change based on your kind words. And you don't have to go above and beyond. It's just a simple act of kindness that sometimes we make more difficult than it needs to be. We got back into the courthouse after the holidays, and I've seen some people who they look like they just, like, I'm not for it at all. And I seen one of my sisters, I walked past, I said, Happy New Year. How you doing? And just to see the smile that came upon her face. Everyday interactions, even during challenging times, it doesn't take much to speak a kind word to someone. And you don't know what that kind word will do in the life of someone. Sometimes your words can bless someone in ways you never imagined. But are we being mindful? Are we being intentional on these things? The fifth characteristic, strength and dignity. Strength and dignity. Proverbs 31, verse 25. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. Oh, come on, baby. Let's talk about this confidence and this resilience that she was displaying. Come on, look, I don't have to be worried about the future. I know what I'm doing. I know the preparation. I know that I have been diligent. I know that I am faithful. I know what I am sowing in the lives of other people. To develop that inner strength. And then you're not, because you develop it through faith and perseverance, right? That's what we said, that God is the firm foundation. Our faith should be our foundation. But you get to this place of having inner strength, and it's not of cockiness. It's not a prideful thing. You know who you are. You know what you are called for. You know what your purpose is. You know how you are showing up. You stop living. You stop living for the applause of other people. You stop living for the approval of other people. You stop being afraid of walking in purpose. You stop being afraid and shying back from the spotlight because this is what God has called you to. He has called you to come up hither. He has called you to more. He has called you to show up in your family, in your community. And this is important. Strength and dignity, y'all, we have to be clothed with it every day. And how do you get that dignity? That's living a life of integrity. Living a life of integrity, aligning your actions with your values. Now, look, this is not a come and say, oh, you have to be perfect. Because remember, I told you that was when we started off with that. One of the misconceptions is about perfectionism. This is not perfectionism. You know, it's not about perfection. It's about progress. Continue to improve. Have goals that you're stretching yourself. But are you living with integrity? Are you aligning your actions with your values of who you say? Are you the same person outside that you are inside? One of my mentors, I love that. She said, my husband and I, we live a lifestyle that if you pull the curtains back, it's going to be the same. Nothing's different going on behind the curtain. That was what we're displaying to everybody in front of us. And you don't have to show up and be fake. You don't have to show up and be uncomfortable. You're the same person inside and outside. You're the same person, every day of the week. Now, that doesn't say that we're not flawed, that we don't make mistakes. That's not what we're saying. But if I give you let your yes be yes and your no be no. Be a person who is considerate, a person who is kind. Be a person who's not gossiping behind somebody else's back. Be a person who's not, every time you turn around, you're doing something deceitful. You're trying to get the upper hand on somebody. Be someone who's not lying and scheming to try to get their way, to get ahead. You got to be living with a purpose. We got to live with a purpose. And This is Wisdom Unleashed, right? We're taking these things and we have these discussions because it's like, okay, how do we take this wisdom and how is it practical to us today, right? So first, let's talk about balance. There are pressures that we have on the day to day. There are just pressures that we have, but we have to balance that. We have to be mindful of just what life is in this journey that we're on. Don't try to meet these unrealistic expectations that are often placed on women. Okay? We are wives, we are mothers, we are business women. Like God, the way that God has created us and what we are capable of is amazing. But the thing is, don't compare your life to the next woman. Don't compare your life to your sister. The path that she's called to walk on is her path. The shoes that she's called to walk in are her shoes. They are not yours. Let's not get to the competitive. She was doing, she had all these things going on and she went home and she cooked a 4 or 5 course meal and X, Y, and Z. And every time I see her hair is slayed, her nails is done. And sometimes, I'm barely making it just to get up and make sure that I'm looking decent. You don't know what people have went through. You don't know the whole story. 9 times out of 10, we never know the whole story, right? So yes, there are pressures. Yes, sometimes, and we have to be careful too of not allowing the world to tell us what a woman is, what a woman should be accomplishing. No, we go back to our source. We go back to the creator. We go back to the manufacturer. But balance it. Be careful with that. Trying to live up to the unrealistic expectations of how your body should look, how you should talk, all these different things. No, seek God for his guidance and direction and take those characteristics of kindness, diligence, faithfulness, and begin to apply those in the area. Utilize that wisdom that God is going to bestow upon you to fulfill your call. And we have to prioritize. Keep the main thing the main thing. What matters most? First and foremost is your faith. If you don't have God, you don't have anything. Now, I'm not one to try to force my faith upon anyone, but I would be remiss if I did not tell people that there is he is a God that loves you. He sent his only begotten son, Jesus Christ, to die for your sin. Don't get mixed up in with religion. It's about relationship. He wants a relationship with you. He doesn't care about your shortcomings, your flaws, the things that you did that you think is too much for him. Nothing is too much. Jesus shed his blood for you. And the invitation is to all who want to accept it. But prioritize. We have to prioritize our faith. After your faith, it comes your family. Remember that. Don't be out here trying to pursue, serving, and doing all these other opportunities and all these other things, and you neglect your family. And then look at your personal growth. Your personal growth. Prioritize your personal growth rather than striving for perfection. God never called you to be perfect. Why would you put more on yourself than the one who created you has put on you? He didn't call you to be perfect. Second, empowerment. When you think about the Proverbs 31 woman, it's empowerment. Taking initiative. Making the decisions. Sometimes making those hard decisions, right? These things contribute significantly to your household and to your community. Take initiative. We can look at things and be like, that needs to change. Or God can place something on you that you don't like, or you see something that it can be better. How about you take the initiative rather than pointing at what somebody else can do? You take the initiative to do it. You come up with the ideal. You present. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're probably going to be the one that carries the project, if you will. But bring the ideal forth. Pour into your family. Pour into your community. Be the change that you want to see. And remember that All that we discuss, especially under this place of empowerment, these are tools, these are characteristics as we're breaking it down, these character traits. It's for encouragement. It's not some unattainable checklist. It's encouragement. How are we able to take these steps in our personal growth to become better, to become who we were created to be? Y'all, as long as we have breath flowing in our body, it means that there is more. There is greater for us. We get to that place that we begin to see ourselves the way that God sees us. And it's a day-to-day journey. And then the faith as our foundation. We have to be intentional and consistent with building our personal relationship with God. Because in that relationship with God is where we get the wisdom, is where we get the strength, is where we get the peace. That no matter what it looks like, what's going on around you, what you have encountered, what you face, the hurdles that you overcome, the mountains that arise, you have a peace. You have the strength to continue to persevere, to show up anyway. For those who are climbing the corporate ladders, no, it's not easy. For those of us who are out here and we're running businesses, no, it's not easy. For those of us who maybe stay-at-home moms and you're raising the children and you're taking care of home, no, it's not easy. But let me give us all this reminder. God never said it was going to be easy, but he did tell us that he was going to be with us, that he would never leave us nor forsake us, that he would go ahead of us. He did tell us that he's given us everything pertaining to life and godliness. Everything we need is already within us. But it's as we continue to be intentional in building our relationship with him that God is able to take us to higher heights. That we're at a place that it truly does surpass our understanding of God and give us revelation and insight to decisions that we need to make, what our day is going to look like, how we begin to show up, strategies for our businesses, things that we thought would take years can take months. It's in those places that we begin to see ourselves elevated. You know, God says, humble yourself, and at the right time, I will exalt you. Faith as the foundation. Let us not, prime example, look at Joseph, everything that Joseph endured. Y'all, how many of us could truly say if that was us that we wouldn't have given up? His brothers done sold him into slavery. He done got locked up because he was functioning in integrity, right? His actions was aligning with his values. He was like, no, I'm not about to sleep with you, woman. Cause him to be thrown in jail. Do we have that type of integrity that when it looks as though something is going to be, you have to stand up for something, but the consequences right at the time, it doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem fair. Will you continue to stand on it? Will you continue to walk in dignity? But in the midst of it all, he continued to have faith in his God. And you want to know what happens as he was going through all that, God was pruning him. God was shaping him. God was preparing him. And remember when we were talking about the decisions that you make, the things that you do is not only for yourself, it's for you, your family, and your community. With all that he endured, he was able to save his family. Do y'all know if he was not in the position that he was in, his family would have died? That community would have died, but God gave him the wisdom, the strength, and the peace that was needed. Y'all, faith has to be our foundation. It has to be. There is so much that we can take and decipher and sit on and chew on and meditate on that will help us grow every day. And so I'm gonna give us 3 questions that we can reflect on, that we can take it back and just say, you want to know something? Get your Bible out, get your phone out, whatever, however you want to do it, and read it and reflect on these questions. Number 1, which traits of the Proverbs 31 woman do you admire most? And how can you cultivate them in your life? This is not something just for us to hear and just like, oh, you want to know something? That was a good episode. God says, don't be hearers of the words only. Be ye hearers and doers of the word. Number 2, in what ways can you rely on faith to grow in wisdom and strength? In what ways can you rely on faith to grow in wisdom and strength? And number 3, how can you extend kindness and compassion to those around you, especially during difficult times? And I'm going to give a little call to action, all right? So I want to encourage everybody to do some self-reflection. Journal about how you can grow in wisdom, how you can grow in faith, how you can grow in kindness. Journaling is good. Journaling is good. And if you've never tried journaling before, do it. It will be, I think you would find that it is soothing. It is insightful. It truly helps you to reflect, and then to go back and when you read what you have journaled before and see the changes that have happened in your life, that can be mind-blowing in itself. But take some practical steps as well. So, self-reflection, take some practical steps. Develop a routine of prayer and scripture reading to align with God's wisdom. You can't function in all that God has for you if you do not know his word. And faith comes by hearing, and hearing the word of God. And that's reading it. Reading that word and praying. Remember this. Start small habits. Planning meals. Setting aside quiet time. These things reflect the principles of diligence and foresight. The thing is, you start small. You don't try to do everything, right? Because as soon as you get to a point I won't necessarily say fail, but fail is not a bad thing. But that's a whole nother episode. But when you feel as though like you're not meeting your goals, you could get discouraged if you're so overwhelmed with having so many. Start small and begin to implement those things. And then the third call to action is prayer and study. Prayer and study. Ask God for the guidance in living out the qualities of the Proverbs 31 woman. And that's my prayer for everyone who's listening. That God would give us the guidance to live out these qualities, to apply these qualities in our lives each and every day, and how we're showing up in our families, how we're showing up in our businesses, how we're showing up in our workplaces, how we're showing up everywhere that God causes us to be, how we're showing up in our communities. So Lord, give us the guidance to live out these qualities, Lord. We need it. We cannot do it on our own, but with you, all things are possible. In Jesus' name. And be honest, one thing that I would recommend for anybody who's interested, we were talking about journaling. So I have the Worthy Women's Prayer Journal for 2025, and it's focusing on us this year being connected with God, living a life worthy of God's calling, and so with this, you have a devotional, you have prayer prompts, you have time to reflect, you have a space for notes and all these different things. But it gives you these prompts that helps you inquire, what does God have for you? What is God calling you to lay down? And we do quarterly quarterly focuses. Okay. And so on a quarterly basis, you're focusing each week. There's something. So it's not a thing that you have to do it every day, or you could get in there every day, however God is going to lead you. But I truly believe that it's going to bless us and help us as we are on this journey to walk with God throughout this year, and just to come to a place of elevation, to grow, for God to stretch us in that. So if you are interested in it, I will tell you to head over to wisdomunleashed.org, go under the books and journals tab, and you will be able to locate the journal there. Also, if you haven't already signed up for the email list, go ahead and do so. God is amazing. God is amazing. And I'm praying that everything that we have discussed today, that it's fallen on good soil, that it takes root, that it grows, and that you continue to produce fruit in season and out of season. With that being said, until we meet again, you all have joined Wisdom Unleashed.